G'day, welcome. I'm Stephen Travers. Welcome to another live session. Look, the topic I've got for tonight is things I've learned to. Hang on, let me. Here I go. I can't think of the title. I know what I'm doing, but I'll just bring up the what being a YouTuber has taught me about drawing. Hi, Jessica. Welcome. You're the first person. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you want to say whether you can? That would be great. Yeah, what being a YouTuber has taught me about drawing. Yeah, look, excellent. Thanks. It's been an interesting journey for me. Excellent, thank you. Howdy, welcome everyone. It's been a really interesting journey. I actually started the YouTube channel seriously in August 2021 with my first teaching videos. Before that, I'd started the channel, I don't know, maybe 6 months or a year before that, but just to really stick my Instagram reels on from my Instagram account, which was strictly my time lapses of the drawings I was doing for Instagram. And then I did a course, created a course for a platform, Class 101, which made me think about teaching, but teaching drawing. But it also made me aware that a lot of the world just can't ever afford anything in US dollars, and that lots of people draw because it is so accessible, it is so cheap. And I wanted to do something that I thought anyone could use, and was accessible to anyone, and didn't have a burden to start up. So I began to do some YouTube videos, because having done the course and having had one of my children help me with that, with some of the technical things and just some advice and so forth, encouraged me to think that I could just do some one-off lessons, and that would be great. Oh, hello, Austria. We have friends there. We love visiting Austria. And so, yeah, so it was August 2021, which is almost 2 years ago now, that I started doing these teaching videos. And then I monetized in March 2022, which was both nice and daunting. And yeah, it's kind of taken off in the last few months in a big way, which has been encouraging. I honestly had one video that for me just went absolutely ballistic, and oh, look, it's just hard to sleep those few nights. I'll be waking up and checking, one of those people, checking my stats and driving my wife crazy. But so look, it's been an incredible journey to become a YouTuber. I've reached the point where if anyone asks me what I do now, my answer is I'm a YouTuber, because it is the thing that probably most defines, even more than an artist. I think the teaching side of my art has kind of become the predominant emphasis in my thinking at this point. So welcome those people who've just come on, and it's great to see some names consistently, particularly when I don't really give you any warning about this. Yeah, look, so it's been quite an incredible journey. This Instagram, not Instagram, this YouTube journey, and I've learned lots of things from it. But I was thinking this morning, just reflecting on the fact that it's benefited my art, my drawing so much. I mean, I make these videos, and I hope that people get benefit from it. I hope that it helps direct people in whatever way they're wanting to take their art, either directly or even sometimes indirectly. But I've become aware lately just how much it's helped my own drawing, and I thought that might be an interesting thing to think about and to reflect on, for myself, but also that it might be interesting for other people to think of too. And you might have some questions about what the experience has been like for me, or you might have some reflections yourself about your own drawing journey and the significant things in it. So if that's the case, please put them in the comments, and and that would be great. So, my points, I'll just glance to check them to keep some sort of order, and so that I don't become too repetitive. Um, um, okay, well, firstly, I'm still kind of, yeah, I guess I'm still surprised that I am a YouTuber, so that's kind of fun, but that's not really connected with what it's taught me about drawing. Look, I think the first thing is that it's taught me, just do it. Just draw. We don't have to wait till we feel like drawing, because what's happened for me is that the drawing has become part of the teaching. And so basically almost all the drawing I do at the moment is connected with making a video. And as my channel has done well, and as it monetized, and then as it began to take off in April, which is not that long ago, um, it encouraged me to want to develop it and to keep the momentum going. And um, and so I've that's been a very sort of strong focus. And so if I want to keep producing, if I want to keep producing videos, I need to keep producing artworks. And so that's pushed me to think, well, what am I going to draw today? And I know that this is often on a day when I'm feeling that I probably wouldn't draw. I don't feel like drawing now. I'm going to draw now because I have to have a drawing for a teaching video. And I draw because I need to draw for the video. And what I discover is that once I start drawing, then the air I breathe becomes different. I find energy, I find connection, I find all of these things within me that I didn't think I had with with me at that stage of the day. And when, if I'd just been waiting for the inspiration to fall and waiting to feel that I wanted to draw, I wouldn't have. And possibly I could have gone a very long time without that. But because in a sense the drawing was necessary for something else, I kind of had the discipline to sit down and do it. And so that's been a really important thing to learn, that there can be this sense of we have to wait for inspiration, and we have to wait for the muse to come and to touch us, and to give us the creative spark that we need to have the inspiration and the creativity and the energy and the obsession to do it. But in fact, the most important thing about drawing is to sit down and start to draw. And it reminds me of um, years ago, I went to a creative seminar, and the first speaker got up and said, the most important thing for any artist is that at the time of the day where you start producing art, you get up and you put on the clothes you produce art in, you pick up the objects you create art with, you go to the spot where you create art, and you do the things that create your art. And that's it. And you don't give yourself a chance to think, do I feel like it or not? You just go there and you do it. And this process of creating videos with the drawing really hammered this down for me in a way that the painting I did, where I often didn't start till halfway through the day, didn't, because I didn't have that, if you like, external discipline. So it's been really helpful for me to realize that these sorts of creative things, someone's agree with me, that's great, that these creative moments are not things that we have to sit around and wait for them to spark. They happen. We make them happen. We start doing it, and then we start the process where the creativity flows. So that's been really helpful for me. So okay. All right. Another big thing that being a YouTuber, making all these YouTube videos, has taught me is that if nothing changes, nothing changes. All the significant improvements in my drawing have come because I've changed the way I've done things in some way. I've shaken my process up. And like, if I'm honest, I've got to say I did that because it was often part of the video. It was part of what's the new angle for drawing I can explore. And I would actually explore it first myself in my drawing. And what I often see when I look at drawings, say on Instagram, where you can scroll down and see dozens and dozens and dozens of drawings by the same artist, is that a lot of the, to my mind, issues with them are repeated in every single drawing. And it's usually the case that all the drawings are very similar. They're very similar in subject and in style and in approach, and they all look as though they took the same time and they're all the same size. And these are all the things that I've learned because of making the videos, that if you shake things up, if you change things, it really stirs the pot of creativity. It really kind of creates a lot more interactions in our minds, and that bears fruit. That shows itself in improvement in what we actually do. So um, so for instance, if I change the time, if I force myself to draw faster than I normally draw, or if I make myself go at a slower pace, if I draw larger, if I draw smaller, if I draw the same drawing multiple times, if I do things differently, then that's a very helpful thing for stimulating creativity, because I get to use what I've got and where I've come, but I get to see it in a different context, or I have to pull things out of the air to do something that I haven't done before, and I learn things in that process. And oh, I'm sorry, Houston. It's 5:30 a.m. Thank you. um, it's 8:30 here at night, Sunday night. That kind of that making those changes in terms of how we do art, when we do art, what we do for art, all of those things are very stimulating. And look, I would never have drawn grass as a subject. I would never have drawn the ground as a subject. I would probably never have drawn, certainly not with pen and ink, the trees and the bush that I live around. Well, it's around me. I live in it, and because they're just not things I would have drawn. And yet, firstly, I've really enjoyed drawing them because I've been on a bit of a roll. If you've been watching my channel lately, on natural themes, having sat in the architecture genre for a long time, because that's the genre that got me into drawing. Um, but I've really enjoyed going into these other areas and exploring the skills I developed in architecture and with pencil originally, then with pen, and now to draw trees and to do things that I've painted, but I'd never tried to draw, and certainly not with pen before. And it's been incredibly kind of stimulating and learning. And I really feel like my work has improved from the injection of newness, because we can get very much the same. We can get very much in a rut, and because I'm trying to think of new things. I mean, my wife walks past and she says, "I can't believe you thought of something different to do today. How can you be doing something different to what?" And I let her in on a secret that sometimes they're a bit similar, but just different drawings. But hi there, Reshma. But yeah. Um, Okay, another way my drawing has benefited from being a YouTuber is that I've discovered that I actually have more creativity in me than I thought. I I I wouldn't have thought I could be branching out so widely, but the need to make more videos has pushed me to, as I just said, to go into further subjects. Um, in the Canadians, yeah. Um, and yeah, because I mean, the truth is, I haven't been drawing for a huge amount of time, and the time I have been drawing has really been in architecture, because I just love old buildings so much. I love history, I love art, and it all comes together in architecture so beautifully. Um, and combined with travel and with memories of travel and places that I've enjoyed being with, it's just a wonderful subject. But it's been wonderful now to discover that I can take that creativity into new areas. So, look, I think a really important thing I've learned is that mistakes don't matter. Mistakes do not matter. And I think for a long time, um, um, the fear of making mistakes was a real, a real barrier to me. I've learned that when I make mistakes, I can almost always recover from the mistake in some way. I've drawn thousands of drawings now between Instagram and YouTube, and there might be five that I've restarted out of all those, and all the others, all the mistakes I've made, and there's been so many mistakes, I think I've been able to recover from so that they're not obvious by the end. And for me, that's been a really, really, really helpful lesson, because if I wasn't trying to produce the video, I quite possibly would have given up with a lot of them, thinking, oh, it's not worth continuing now, except I'm thinking, oh, well, I may as well try and save it, and then I can, keep going with the video. And I discovered that, in fact, you can save it. You can put the right line in over the top of the wrong line. And I've realized that the brain will favor the correct line, and the incorrect line won't be so obvious. I've noticed that very often you can actually obliterate somehow the wrong line, unless it's actually an exterior silhouette line. You often can bring hatching up right against it, or if something's a bit wide, you can narrow it with some shadow or some shading, or sometimes just add it. It depends on the actual drawing. No, I haven't been to Turkey, but I would love to draw in Istanbul. Let me tell you, I follow this Australian guy on Instagram, Maxwell, a really lovely guy, and he was in Istanbul recently, and I was so jealous of him. And he said I could draw from some of his photos. So next time he's back in Sydney, I plan to do that. But I would love to be there in person. Oh, good grief! Who's awake at 4:45 in Colorado? But welcome, Kimberly. So. But it's been really valuable to learn that mistakes are not the dreadful calamity that we think they are, and we need to persevere till the end. And so, the videos have not forced me, but they've certainly encouraged me to push past mistakes that in the past I could very easily have said, oh, look, I won't bother with that. It's not worth the time. And the problem is, at that point, I wouldn't have restarted because I would have been discouraged. So I would have just left it and not gone back to it. Yeah. I discovered mixed media because of mistakes. Yes. Throw a bit of wash over everything, eh? That can cover a multitude, can't it? Good thought. What's my next point that I learned? I learned that encouragement helps. I mean, this, I don't know. As I said, I actually haven't. I started really drawing in 2018, and then it was pencil for maybe 18 months. So my time drawing in pen is relatively limited, and it's I've gone through the same kind of mental processes of, can I do this, that we all go through, and some drawings I'm amazed at and I'm happy with, and some disappoint me. But I've been at a stage in life where I've been able to apply myself intensely to this, and so I've been able to build on whatever I've learned, and to build on that rapidly. But this is where all you guys come in. I find energy to draw often from the encouragement, the very kind words that people say about my drawing. And if I didn't have YouTube, then I wouldn't get those comments. And I'd just be drawing by myself, and I'd be showing my wife, and she'd be saying, oh, that's lovely, darling. And, Yeah. Or my children might say that, and I think, "Oh, well, it's their job to say, good on you, dad." But so connecting with a wider group of people is just been a tremendous place of encouragement. I mean, that's quite apart from the teaching side, but the drawing side and people really liking what I do is encouraging, and it's encouraging for me. I'm sure it's encouraging for you. And so, I would say if your drawing experience is totally in isolation from anyone, to try and find some people that you can draw with. And I mean, so many people draw. I mean, so many people draw. And there must be some people near you whom you can draw with. They may not be like you, they may not look like you or be your age or whatever, but find a group of people where once a month, I mean, urban sketching groups are in many, many cities, USK. Just Google USK and put your city, and maybe there's a group of people already meeting monthly. But if not, stick up a notice in the local supermarket. Just have a place in town where you meet to draw, and get some people around you that you can encourage and they can encourage you. And it gives you a time to talk with people who enjoy drawing, because it is possible to enjoy drawing and have lots of good friends, but none of them draw. And it's nice to be able to share the experience of the drawing with people. And I've really benefited, because I feel like my experience of producing the drawings has been shared with you as much as the lessons have been. And that's been incredibly encouraging for me. And it's been very motivating for me to push on, and to push on with new subjects and things that maybe I'm not so familiar with. So yeah, encouragement. Okay, this next one may be the most important one, so I'm glad there's 30 people watching right now. That's probably the highest number. This what I've learned, what I've been taught about drawing by being a YouTuber, this is probably the most important one, or most significant, and that is that working out why things are so is an incredible accelerator of improvement. I mean, why do I feel I've kind of improved fairly steadily? I think it's because I've been teaching myself every video. Every video I make, I'm 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 learning, and I've got to be learning it myself first. Sometimes I get the videos, and well, I mean, all the time, what's in the video is my experience. And so I think people often say I'm practical, and I think that's because yeah, it all comes from my experience of my drawing. Like, what are the issues I've had to overcome? What are the skills, techniques I've developed, and so forth, and for my drawing, and then I just get to show them. But it comes from when I look at my drawings, I say, okay, well, why has this worked or not worked? What is it that's a lot of things I just began to do intuitively, like when I began to what I now call drawing the effect of the detail, not the detail. I don't know what anyone else calls it, but I mean, that started when I was drawing architecture, and there'd be buildings that had masses of detail, the roof of Palais Garnier, and just the plasterwork detail in that. And I developed a way of drawing it to suggest it and show it, and kind of give and highlight parts of it, but to make it achievable to do the whole thing. And then I realized I was doing something similar when I was painting trees, and I began to use that when I drew trees. And I, at some point, I looked at my drawings and I said, what am I actually doing? And I analyzed it and I worked it out, and then I could choose to use it more precisely. And originally just with architecture, but then I began to realize that when I was doing crowds of people, I was using the same, drawing the effect of the detail, not the detail. When I was doing bricks, I was doing the same thing. And I've learned that, and it's what I use when I did the how to draw grass video recently, and the flowers I mean, it's very good for nature, because nature is very high numbers. There's millions of everything. So we can never draw the exactness. And so learning to draw this, so learning to draw the effect, but working it out working out the theory was helped me then apply it more more intensely and more accurately, more quickly to my work, and I felt my work improved significantly as I became more aware of the dynamics of how I was producing it, of what my and it works the other way too. If there are things I'm not happy with my drawings, then if I want to get them out of my drawings, I need to work out what am I doing wrong and or not wrong, but what am I doing that I don't think is working well, that I don't want to have in my drawings, and therefore how can I eliminate those? At what point are they coming into the process? Um, and get rid of them. So yeah. So I guess what I'm saying is one of the big things I've learned being a YouTuber is that being a teacher is incredibly helpful for the part of you that's still a student. Yeah, and I do always pay attention to what I say. I mean, when I say things, I say them. I don't know if you saw that video of mine where I did a video. I think it was something like this. You know, this 5-minute thing will double your drawings being marvelous or something, and it's just about doing a little now not a thumbnail. It's a place where you explore your marks and how you'll create the effects that you want or that you need for the reference. And sometimes you might even draw a small part of it if you're not sure of how the angles get together or whatever. And I do this every single drawing. I didn't do it every drawing before I made the video, but I think after I've made the video, I very rapidly began to do it every drawing because I began to see how much it improved the first marks I made. Because they're often I think in my mind, the more not careless ones, but the more aimless ones, the ones that maybe don't work as well because we're still getting our head around what's happening. I found I was able to get those first aimless marks on a scrap of paper, which then was next to, and it also helped me work out what pens I was going to use and all that. So doing that every time has been very helpful. But I wouldn't be doing that if I hadn't sort of been teaching that as a teacher, and that made me focus on it more. So yeah. Okay. Yeah. It made me realize another thing that being a YouTuber taught me about drawing is how important creativity can be as a way of working through issues and even a way of finding kind of healing within ourselves for things, because very often our creativity, I mean, it does connect with who we are in a very personal place, and often a sense of who we are can be connected to it, and we can often have had unfortunate experiences with expressing our creativity in our youth or younger periods or at school, and all of these can really create all sorts of issues that make it hard to express ourselves creatively freely. And and um, um, and so a lot of the perfectionism issues that I think is huge in the creative world, comes from not having had a secure or a safe early experience of being creative and of producing works, and of having reactions to what we did that were disappointing or hurtful, and in some way made us not want to risk going to that place again of producing something and risking it being laughed at or ignored or criticized. But we still live with the creativity inside of us. A few of us will be having some ads. A few of you will be having some ads soon. So can you do me a favor and let them run? And yeah, thanks, Ian, for that comment that you just put in there. But yeah, and so these things can stop us, and we can, to the point where we're so afraid of making mistakes we don't start. And I've had so many people make that comment, that there have been times where they've been paralyzed with fear of mistakes, and just haven't been able to start, or they'll start but can't proceed past a certain spot. Don't you hate that moment in the drawing where you suddenly realize you might be 2/3 of the way through and you suddenly realize, hey, this is looking good. Oh no, now I'm going to wreck it. And suddenly you become really timid with your lines or what you do, and you start to get it nervy and and I mean, yeah, and you lose the freedom that characterized the what you'd done up till then. Um, yeah, yeah. Welcome, Isabel. Yeah. So, but I've learnt that just as art can be a victim of these things, it can also be the way we navigate through them, and it can be the context in which we learn that it's okay to make mistakes. That I don't have to be the best artist. I don't have to be the best teacher, for that matter. Um, um, but I be what I can be, and I try and improve, and that's okay. And not everyone has to like my work either, and that's okay. Although it is helpful if there's encouragement, as I said in one of my earlier points. Um, so yeah, yeah, I found that YouTube, being a YouTuber and having to produce the art so regularly and having to put it out there and risk what people might say. Um, um, has been incredibly helpful for helping me to push through whatever perfectionism I still had clinging to me, and a fear of what people would think. I mean, I guess I'd had a fairly an encouraging Instagram experience before that, which probably gave me the courage to try YouTube, which in some ways is a little more out there because people are seeing the process. And I mean, I edit stuff out. But but the drawing's the drawing, so I can't edit that out. Yeah, look, I think one of the great things about my YouTube experience, and what it's taught me about drawing, is that it's never too late. It's as an older person, uh, yeah, it's easy to think that the world belongs to young people, and and that they're the ones with time to do things and to succeed, and that it's easy to look back and think, oh, I spent all these decades where for one reason or another I didn't do this, and it's all too late now, and I'll just sit around watching television till I die. And while I guess that you can do that if you like watching television, that's a lousy thing to do if we've really wanted to draw or paint or do something creatively our whole life. And that it's never too late. I mean, I was 50 when I started painting. I was 60 when I started drawing. And and I'm 65, and I'm about to get I hope in a few weeks, probably all things continuing well, I'll get a silver play button from YouTube. And like, that's crazy. Like, that's crazy. And it's given certainly great encouragement to think, look, it's not too late. And one of the videos I've done, which has had, I guess for me, the most sort of heartwarming response, is the one about something like 5 tips if you start to draw later in life. And all these people who've started to draw later in life, all these people who kind of thought they'd never get there, thought they maybe couldn't or wouldn't, or and have been afraid to, and they've stepped into it at 50, 60, 70, 80, and they're doing it, which is amazing, which is absolutely amazing that they've discovered it before it is too late. If we're still breathing, it's not too late. And if you're watching this and you're more an artist from the sidelines watching others, but you want to do it, then jump in and get wet and get muddy and learn, because that's how we all do it. It's how we all start. And it doesn't matter how old you are. This is, these things, learning and developing, and particularly in creativity, if it's in us, it's meant to be coming out somehow. And I mean, sometimes when we're younger, we don't always have time. Absolutely, Connie. Good on you. Yeah, thanks, Graham. Yeah, I thought I might get a few people sharing age. Talent. I have a video on talent. Is it talent or is it hard work and learning skills? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Grandma Moses. That's true. Yes, and she did very well for herself too. Good on her. Okay, so age is no barrier. Um, okay. There's a few things here that a few the next few are kind of things I've learned or impacts of being a YouTuber that aren't directly related to my drawing, but just some observations. So I thought I was sure I thought I'd share them as well. With age comes wisdom and experience. Well, hopefully on a good day. That's true. Look, I think this one's a bit hard to know how to describe, but I think drawing in particular is this immensely accessible area of creativity because all we need is a pencil or a pen and some paper. Some copy paper is pretty cheap or some cheap paper to draw on. And so all of us all around the world, we can draw and there's always something in front of us or next to us that we can draw. And so drawing is just this thing that anyone can do. And so anyone does, or a lot of anyone's do it, and anyone like me or you. And I think by being on YouTube and by paying attention to as many people who follow me and comment on my videos as possible and engaging with and sometimes things that they share, you get a sense into their world. If it's on Instagram, I can often see their work on their Instagram account too. It it it's just made me aware of just it, I don't know, like we're all in humanity together, and we all have yeah, we how to say this? We all have this thing within us, this creativity within us, and it's such a commonality for us. And it's a shame we just can't all get together in one place on one day and draw together, all kind of like 3 billion of us who draw and just have a good time and laugh and draw and show each other our stuff. Um, but it's made me feel that as people, we're all a lot more the same than I think maybe I really felt. Um, and I'm amazed, like um, the engagement I have with people who are so unlike me in every other area of their life, except we love drawing and we love, something, and there's some point of connection. It's just amazing. But I just really love it. It's such a great possibility. I mean, a lot of people my age are very down on social media, and I guess it can have a lot of negatives as well. But there's tremendous possibility as well for some measure of connection in a way that could never happen before. And I really, now that we're sort of post COVID, I guess you know, I'm really hoping I can travel and at times, meet up with people in cities, street sketch, and say, look, I'll be in the courtyard of the Louvre on Sunday. If anyone's in Paris, join me. And that would just be so much fun, I think. Yeah, I agree. We and the trouble is, Adnama said, I think the only restrictions, that holds the only restriction, I think only restriction, the only one who holds you back is you. And yeah, and we do for all sorts of reasons. And we need to encourage us to push through that. Because I spent 30 years not doing any art, but thinking about it every day of my life. And that in the end was me. I mean, I couldn't have done as much then as I do now, but I certainly could have done some, except that I was holding myself back for all sorts of, afraid of this, afraid of that. So yeah, great sense of connection with a wonderful world. Look, I think it's it has made me realize that because I was a teacher, I was a high school teacher for 3 years, 1980, 81, 82. Yes, I'm that old. And then I didn't teach after that. And it's made me realize that I'm as much a teacher as I'm an artist. and that's been just nice, that kind of reconnection. I mean, I left teaching because I had a lot of voice issues, and I couldn't go back to it. So it wasn't through a bad experience. I loved it, and I would have loved to have kept teaching. So it's been really wonderful to, if you like, resurrect these two loves of my youth, teaching and art, into the same thing, by being a YouTuber. Do I regret all the years I didn't draw? Oh, Jessica, no regrets. No regrets. I mean, I did things in those years. I did other things, and I had other enjoyments, and I was raising a family and kids and whatnot, but so I'm not regretting that, but I'm incredibly thankful that I found the place now to do it. And if you haven't heard, what the thing that actually that got me started drawing again, got me started drawing, when I was 50, was that my eldest daughter, her end of high school art major work, was showcased at the Art Gallery of New South Wales with the very best, and she won a scholarship to a very prestigious art school in Sydney, down at the Circular Quay, down in the Rocks area, and the Julian Ashton Art School, if you know it, a 1-year scholarship to their drawing course, and I was insanely jealous. I was absolutely crazy jealous of her having this opportunity. Now, of course, she was my daughter, and I was thrilled. I was thrilled that she had this opportunity, but I was so much wishing I could do that, that I had that scholarship, that I had those classes. And the strength of my feelings at that point was enough to make me realize, Stephen, if you really want to do it, good grief, man, you're 50. I mean, who are you going to complain to that you're not doing it? Do it, or be quiet. You know, don't don't make a fool of yourself, or do something. And that's when I just did one subject from a certificate course at a local technical college, just like 3 hours a week for half the year, and that was enough to start me. That one session, um, and I would go to it on the way home, so I didn't have to go home from work. Because if I'd gone home, I wouldn't have got out of home again. So, and my wife and family was very supportive and happy for me to do that, and that was enough to get me started and to realize just how important it was to me. So um, yeah, so no regrets, no regrets, but really, really appreciative that I found this place now, um, and it's opened up this incredible world for me that I could never have conceived of. In fact, when I first, because I had an Instagram account for my paintings, and that my kids set up because they said if you're an artist you have to. And then when I was in Paris and I did that first drawing in July 2018, did that first drawing, and the daughter who I drew with, in front of Notre Dame, said to me, "Oh, Dad, you got to put this drawing. You can put this on your Instagram account." And I said, "No, no, it's not a proper artwork. It's just a drawing, just a sketch." She said, "No, that's art. That's art, Dad. Come on, put it on." And yeah, it got such a better response than all of my paintings. And I discovered that there was a whole world of people who draw out there and who drew architecture and who love street sketching. And that was a wonderful opening up of my eyes, because I'd been in my own very narrow world myself. And uh, and it encouraged me to. I mean, I so enjoyed the experience, but the response encouraged me to keep going as well. And it is important, I think, that we encourage one another. Um, yeah. Oh, well, thank you, Paraphal. That's very kind of you. But yeah, I do think, because I feel like I've been learning just ahead of my videos that I can then teach it in. Um, and I think particularly with perspective, I get a lot of people saying that my perspective videos have helped them understand it. Um, And I think it's because I know the questions that as a drawing artist, we ask ourselves about perspective. And when it doesn't seem to work, why hasn't it worked? What have I got wrong that's meant the perspective hasn't worked? So I think it does, yes, if you've watched my videos, you know what I think about most perspective videos, but at the very least, they're not really made by artists, or not by artists who use that sort of building perspective in their drawing, because they wouldn't make the videos they make if they knew the questions that artists have. Yeah, okay, post art on Facebook. Yep. Yeah, I did do art at school, but in high school. But my last couple of years, I did almost nothing. I was in the era of school where everything was like a 3-hour exam at the end of school. Like, there was no assessment, there was no trial exams. You did well, for art, we had a 3-hour painting exam and we had a 3-hour theory exam. And our 6 years of art schooling all rested on those. Oh, we did a major work, a practical major work as well, but that was a smaller part of the component. Yeah, um, so I did very little. I used to drive the teacher crazy because I never had any practical stuff in, because I always felt my stuff wasn't very good, and I never did anything. So yeah, I had my issues early on, and I didn't like anyone to see anything that wasn't finished, because I wanted to be able to control that it looked good enough to show people. Yeah, it was all pretty messed up. And so it really has been a huge working through these things. And that's why I do talk about perfectionism a bit, because I had to battle it myself. And it was a very big part of why I didn't do a lot for a number of years. But, we can push through it. It's not, yeah, don't want to minimize the difficulty. Yeah, but we can get through it. Yeah, and look, certainly, I think I said this before, as it turned out, but certainly it's producing all these videos has led me to draw things I wouldn't have drawn. I mean, there are still things I haven't done. I haven't done portraits, and it's, I mean, I've done the odd portrait in my life. I did a self-portrait once, but there are people who love doing portraits and they do them so well, and I don't know, I'll just continue to enjoy theirs. I probably enjoy life drawing more than portraiture, but even so, I've done very little of that. But it's always, when I've got the experience, it's always been a tremendous one. I have an Instagram page, which is Stephen Travers Art. So yep. But my drawings there they're different. They're done with a 4x4 grid on the reference and on the paper, and there is a pencil underdrawing, which then I ink over and put the marker over that. So it's not the freehand ink drawing that I do for my YouTube channel. Occasionally I'll post a YouTube drawing on Instagram, but the really sort of complex, very detailed architectural drawings, that is the bulk of what I post there, are done a different way, and they take about 6 hours, 5 to 6 hours to do in real time. So yeah. So Ian had an uninspiring high school life. Oh yes, the paints and brushes. Yes, the paint never covered anything from memory, didn't it? I mean, the paper still showed through, let alone any marks or papers or other. Yeah, and the brushes. Yeah, just remembering school art class brushes. They were a lot of fun, weren't they? Does anyone want to ask me any questions about my experience as a YouTuber teacher in no, I don't play. The only games I've ever played, computer games I've ever played, was Age of Empires ages ago. But then my son got so much better than me that he didn't want to play with me, because it was just too boring to have me tacked on. So and I'd probably rather put that time into my drawing now. So learning or watercolor. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Look, can you make a career out of painting? Look, it's not easy. It's not easy to make a career out of art, and a lot depends on your local opportunities. And everything is getting so saturated, and all this print on demand stuff and whatnot. And there are endless possibilities to make money from our art that didn't exist 10, 20, certainly not 30 years ago. But how many people would make enough money from all of those together to live on? I don't know. As soon as you become an artist, there are a lot of people who line up to want to make money from you. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with people having galleries or printers. And I've used all of those people at times, and it's been wonderful. But at the end of the day, the aim is not for me to pay them for services. The aim is for me to make money. And there's often a lot of risk involved in that. And sometimes we can afford that risk, and sometimes we can't afford that risk, depending on our other financial circumstances. I would certainly never give up. I would never recommend anyone give up a job to work full-time as an artist if they hadn't already, while they still had another job, been developing an income stream, so that they'd been able to an income stream through their art, so they'd actually been able to see that there were ways they could make money, and they could predict that that would be enough. And whether that's through having a website yourself, or whether it's to selling things locally, or having exhibitions, or whatever, probably make I think a lot of people make more money from teaching art than from actually producing art and selling art. How come I changed from paintings on pen drawings? Yeah, I do. Hang on. Power fail. Yeah. Look, I had an exhibition a year ago. Just actually, this time a year ago, I actually had COVID. But a few months before that, I had the only exhibition I've had of my large architectural paintings, and I did drawings, and I did sell a lot of them. But I still have a lot of them as well. The problem is living in Australia. Postage is quite expensive to overseas. But if there's something on my Instagram page that you like and that you're interested in buying, then you can send me a direct message on Instagram, and I can tell you if it's still available, and I can tell you what it would cost to send it to you if you tell me the country that you're in. Okay, so how do I store them? I hang them on the wall, or I sell them. If they're not finished, they're often still just stacked against each other. I probably don't take enough care of things. All my drawings are just a big fat pile of bits of paper. I don't even sign them unless I'm going to frame them or someone's bought one. I guess maybe I've still got some mental thing to get over about signing them. It just seems a bit, I don't know, a bit strange. No, don't wish to be as good as me, Ziad. Aim to be better than me. Like a good teacher trains her students to go past them. Don't settle for being as good as me. Whatever that means. Aim to learn everything from me you can, and then go beyond. Like, because you get to add to that what you've got within yourself, and I think that's really important. You don't want to be like me. A bad teacher, their students all end up drawing looking like the teacher's work. That's not good teaching. A good teacher gives people the skills to develop their own creativity, to find their own voice, and to make it a better voice in whatever creative output outworking they have. I hope that when people watch my videos, that their drawings don't look like my drawings, that their drawings become better versions of their drawings, and that they gain confidence in learning, the process of learning, because then they can continue, whether they've got my videos or not, they can continue to develop their drawing. That's why I so much talk about how we think, because our drawing comes from how we think. it's not skills. It's not skills about drawing straight lines. That stuff's all pretty pedestrian. And yeah, you can make a 3-minute video that can get 1 million views on how to draw a straight line, but that's not really, they're not really the tools you really need, that are hard to get, hard to develop, costly to develop, and time consuming to develop. It's the creative process in our mind. It's looking at something or imagining something and then working out, how do I put that on paper, using pencil, using pen, using watercolor, using wash, using all of them. How do I create this thing that's swirling around in my head? And I've got to pull it out of thin air, and make it something that can be seen. How do I do that? That's the challenge. It's not drawing the line. It's knowing where I want to draw the line and what the line's going to look like. That's the challenge. How long the line will be, how close it will be to other lines, and all of those things. And if there's going to be values, tonal values or color, then how it relates to all those things. They're the challenges. It's not really drawing the line. I mean, we can all learn to drag the pen or the pencil around the paper, I think, a lot more easily than we can learn to sort of grab that we can do the conversion in our head from thought concept to bring it into reality. That's the hard thing. And probably impatience is the biggest killer of developing real creative potential that we have. And because we want the artwork, we want the thing to photograph and to post on social media, or to put our signature on and to put in a frame, where we're very keen to get that, but not and don't realize that comes from how we think, and then how we see. But even, I mean, I make a big deal about observation, because if we're drawing from a reference, we need to see it more than we often do. And I can tell that by looking at the drawings that people do. And it's not that they haven't been able to put the line in the right place, it's that they haven't seen where the line truly needs to go to get the effect that they want. So all of these things. I mean, any other questions about my journey as a YouTuber, or any questions about how it all works? But I appreciate all the comments. So many aspects to drawing, like light and shadow, color, perspective, structures like humans, etc. Sometimes I don't know where to start and the best way to go about it. Look, start at a place. Start at a place that interests you. Start at a place that you want to be in. But also start doing the things you want to learn to be able to do. So, I've said this in a few videos. If you want to learn to draw in pen, then start to draw in pen. Don't start to draw in pencil. Pencil's a different medium. And just because you can erase it doesn't mean it's easier, or it's like a child's version of, it's like the bike with trainer wheels, and then you take the trainer wheels off when you go to pen. No, graphite is a wonderful medium to use, and it has wonderful potentials and possibilities and challenges. And pen is a wonderful medium to use. Ink, and it has wonderful challenges and possibilities and so forth. So choose the one you want to end up becoming good at. If you want to end up drawing in ink, then start in ink. If you want to end up drawing in pencil, then start in pencil. If you want to do both, start in one and become good at one. Because if you go deep in one area, you learn the skill of going deep, and then you can take that skill into a different medium. But if you go shallow in half a dozen different art mediums, all you've learned to do is to go shallow and not to develop skills in any one. So sorry, I just got a bit oh, thank you, Jessica, that's very kind. Help me conquer my fear using ink. Fantastic. Adnama, thank you. Look, that is one of the things, that is one of the things, I guess, like, yeah, there's a few things that as a teacher, you hope perhaps more than others that they're a bit more dear to your heart. And I think overcoming fear of mistakes is it's one of the things. If I could teach one thing to everyone and know that they were going to learn it well, that would be the thing. Don't be afraid of mistakes. Don't let fear of mistakes stop the progressing of your art, improving it, of doing it, and of even starting. So it's great to hear that, Adnama. That's probably the thing that I would like most to be able to convey. Yep, line and wash, Connie. That's great. And look, I keep talking about starting watercolor, and in some ways, I think, if I'm just thinking back correctly, I think part of the reason I did switch from pencil to pen was that I was also wanting to go with watercolor and learn watercolor, and I felt that that would work better with ink than with pencil. And so, yeah. How do I go trying to make your drawings perfect? I'll change the paper. Yeah, well, see, I don't need my drawings to be perfect anymore. I don't need to be perfect anymore. I think I've reached an age where I'm quite happy to accept the fact that I don't need to be perfect, and that's okay. But in discovering that, what I've learned, and I think you must have missed this earlier when I said what I've learned, is that when we make mistakes, they're not nearly as bad as we think. And most mistakes are not nearly as noticeable, if at all, by the end. And a mistake will never look as bad as when we've just made it. We're more likely to make a mistake at the start when there's lots of blank paper. But most of the time it can be disguised by the end. And I've got a couple of videos on dealing with mistakes, and I think that they are very helpful to look at. Yes, an artwork is complete when you feel you can live with the number of mistakes it contains, and look, I can look at a drawing sometimes, and I can find some of the mistakes that I can still remember making. It's like they're old friends, oh, here's this mistake I made at this point, and this is when I stopped paying attention. Oh, you can hardly see it, and all of that. Aim feels so restless and impatient, unable to draw, and it makes him say, how do you get over this? Well, you've got to change the process that you follow. Like the way you're trying to do it is clearly not working for you. And so I would say, do a drawing where you put the timer on for 15 minutes, and you've got to finish it in 15 minutes, and you've got to draw fast enough that it's finished in 15 minutes or 20 minutes, or that it's going to be A4 size or half A4 or quarter A4, that you set boundaries that you have to work within, that will not necessarily make it easier, but will give a focus that's different from the focus that you've got right now, because the focus that you've got right now is not working for you. It's not helping you. When you sit down to draw with the sort of reference you normally have, with the sort of expectation of what a drawing is going to look like that you have, it's not helping you, because it creates all these feelings that end up meaning you can't draw. So you need to change what you're expecting to do. And that may just sort of shake these things out of the place they are, that kind of controls you. Oh, well, me too. Yes, well, I don't do digital drawings, so I've never accidentally hit the delete button. Yeah, so I got nothing to say about that. It's hard not to know. But yeah, knowing when to knowing when to stop drawing is important. Yeah. Although it's interesting, Connie, because clearly you're drawing after you've painted, whereas when certainly the process I've got in my mind for when I start to do watercolor is that I'll do the drawing first and I'll put the color over the top. So it's interesting that you're doing it the other way around. Yep, silent witness, a suggestion for Zaid. How is teaching on YouTube different teaching face to face? Look, I do enjoy. Like, look, it's whatever. When was 1982? It was what, 40 years ago. So I haven't taught face to face in a classroom for 40 years, but I have done just in the last year, last couple of years, a couple of for local art societies. I've done some demos, and the last one was a drawing demo rather than a painting demo, and yeah, it was nice, just nice having the faces and the people to talk with. I mean, it is nice having that, seeing the people there. Um, and yet I feel like I know some of the people who sort of comment on lots of things, and I see their names over and over, and you sort of start to feel like you get a sense of who they might be, and the creative world that they live in, and that's nice. But yeah, it's with YouTube, you just put it out there and you hope it hits home for people. Face to face, you've got more opportunity to get a sense of, is this connecting? Is there somewhere else we could go? With YouTube, it's really take it or leave it. And yeah, so some drawings only take 5 minutes, others take 70 hours. Yep, I mean, I've never done a 70-hour one myself, but I've certainly seen ones that have or have taken longer. So yeah, I don't think I could manage one myself. But as I said, my Instagram ones they take about 6 hours. So that's probably as much as I can do. I think it is helpful to, all things being equal, try and finish a drawing in one session, if possible. But the other thing is that it is important to push through to the end, even if, because we're talking about things not working out and mistakes, even if I'm not happy with how a painting's looking, I think it's very, very helpful to make ourselves finish a drawing that's not working out, because there are things we only learn in the second half of the drawing. There are things that we only learn when we're trying to kind of pull things together and balance things for the final, if you like, presentation. And we don't learn those things earlier on. We don't learn them in the first half or even the first three quarters. And so it's good to try and get all of our skills of producing an artwork up to date, and the finishing skills need to be worked on to happen, to learn. So and that's actually the fun part. Like, it's so much more fun in the last 15 minutes than the first 15 minutes, I think, of a drawing. So yeah, no, I've never made any watercolor paints. I'm still hoping just to use them, let alone make them. Yeah. A looser control on the pencil. That's great. More confidently. Have I drawn the beach? No, I haven't drawn the beach, which being in Australia is a bit rude. I do have some wave photos. I've been thinking of I've never tried to draw waves with well, anything really. So that's on my list of things to do. I was looking at some beach photos, thinking which of these can I use. But the problem is that all the drawings I've taken, the photos I've taken rather, I took them before I was drawing, and so I didn't take them with drawing in mind, which sometimes mean the family's in the way, or it's just not what you would have taken if you'd been thinking I'm going to have this as a reference. So, but I do hope people find. Do people, can you just tell me now? Do people find the fact that I put the photos on the reference on the community page helpful? Do people actually draw them? I would love to hear if people actually. I know people look at them because they like them, but do people actually draw from them? Because I don't hear much about that. Wood burning's art, unless you're actually making a campfire. But if you mean like with the hot wire that burns and you basically draw, goodness, that's that's art, baby John. I've done that. Yeah, that's great. It's a lot like drawing in pencil. You can really get a surprising number of effects. So yeah, that's art. Um, oh yeah, Zoomer Scout. Well, look, if that works for you, that's great. Certainly when I was painting, because I never painted in one session, it was always a significant moment when I came the next morning, the first time I would see the previous day's work in the morning, because I would see it with those fresh eyes that you're talking about. So I do know what you mean there, and that is a moment in space and time that we need to kind of preserve and use well, that first look at what we did the day before, because we can see it with fresh eyes. And sometimes there are mistakes, which, as we've made the mistakes, we've then got used to seeing them, and then we don't see them as mistakes anymore. And it's that first look the next morning. That's good, Ian. That's great. Yeah, thanks, Jessica. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, that's good. Yep, that's great. Quite. Yep. Okay. Thanks. Yeah. Yep. Yep. The Paris rooftop drawing. Yeah. Okay. Carol's wondering why. Why? I originally started when I started drawing in 2018. It was some street sketching in Paris, and I came back to Australia. It was drawing from my photos of Paris with pencil. When I made my drawings a bit larger, I think I did a 4x4 grid with the pencil. And then I began to see some of the pen drawings on Instagram, and I really liked them and thought, gee, I'd like to do that as well. But I couldn't at that point cope with the thought of drawing directly in pen. And so, yeah, it's just the style I developed. And then not that long after, I began doing the pen outline. I bought some Copic markers and began to put the tone on, and then I made them larger. I went from A4 paper to A5 paper, and then they just became a lot more complex, and that's just what they became. And I did that for a couple of years, and then I was kind of getting a bit. It was all a bit predictable. I was really enjoying the drawings I was doing because I had about a dozen Paris photographers who were happy for me to draw from their photos. So I had amazing references. I had amazing compositions that I was privileged to be able to draw. And but after a couple of years, that it did start to feel a bit predictable what the process was going to be. And we were getting close to a trip in 2020. We are going to have over 3 months in Europe. And I wanted to get ready for street sketching. So I began to practice drawing directly in pen from photos. And unfortunately, with COVID, that was all cancelled. But yeah, I kept going with the drawing because I really love the sense of freedom. And I mean, it was nerve-wracking because I obviously like to be precise. I veer towards the wanting accuracy and whatnot. But yeah, it was helpful. Look, I know Copic markers are expensive, and look, if you ask me, I just bought them because they were the ones that were in the shop, and yeah. But if you ask me what materials should I buy, I'd say buy the materials that you can easily afford and that you can easily get, because the most important thing is that you have the materials when you need them, when you want them, and if they're too expensive that you're afraid of wasting them, then you won't feel free enough to use them to really develop your art. If you're afraid of using a good sheet of paper because it costs so much that you're afraid of wasting it, then it's not a good sheet of paper for you to be drawing with. You need to buy paper that you can afford to waste in learning or in making mistakes. And particularly, particularly if we're learning to draw or paint or whatever, the quality of the materials in most cases doesn't make much difference at all. It doesn't make the difference that people seem to think it will make to the finished artwork. It's, when you reach a certain point in your skills development, it can start to make a difference that's worth the expense. But by then, you probably have the skill and confidence to not be making those mistakes. And so it starts to become a worthwhile investment. And maybe you're starting to be able to sell some things so that it becomes an investment in earning income, which changes it again. Oh, goodness, 20 square foot canvases. Right. Okay. Well, okay. Yeah. I don't know how many square foot what's behind me is. This is about as big as I got. So it's reasonably big. But they are subjects that give themselves to a fair bit of brushwork. Share my experience as a YouTuber. Look, this whole video, I've had an hour and 15 minutes of sharing my experiences as a YouTuber. In terms of drawing, just as a YouTuber in general, it's been a fantastic experience. I can't believe it's been such a great experience. It's just been such, I think it's made me feel 10 years younger, honestly. It's just really been a real spark in my day and my life, and my channel's had enough success that it's both very pleasing for me, but in a practical sense, I can earn some income from it as well now. And yeah, I wasn't expecting to be doing that in this way from my art. And I, as I said too before, I've discovered that I really do still love teaching. So, as well as being an artist, and it brings the best of both worlds. And I find people are really kind. I mean, I've probably had about 5 unpleasant comments in the whole time of thousands and thousands of comments. And the only thing I'll say is it is getting really hard to answer all the comments. I try and at least answer the first comment someone makes, but if you answer my answer, I may not get back to you. Like, it's just starting to become a little overwhelming. I feel like it's rude not to answer, but I guess sometimes people answer for me, which is kind. Yeah, smaller works, completing that. Rush through my drawings. How do I stay focused, slow down, follow? Well, see, most of my drawings now, when I first started the freehand drawings, they were larger and they might take 1 to 2 hours to draw. But just because of the practicalities of videoing and having all this video on my camera for a few days, and just the limited space there is for this sort of stuff on your camera, because I do it all on my phone. Everything's on my phone. I film it, I edit, post it on my phone. Yeah, I seldom have a drawing that takes more than 1 hour and a quarter, and I find that's an okay time for me to sit and draw in one session. I mean, I might get up and get a drink of water or go to the bathroom or something once in that, but usually not. And often the drawings are 20 minutes, 30 minutes, because I think in the end they're often more useful for people to have a drawing that's not going to take a huge amount of time. I try and limit the larger drawings I did when I first began to, I think because of my Instagram experience doing very large, complex drawings, I kind of felt like my YouTube channel was going to be how to do large, complex drawings, only freehand. And I think in the end, I realized that wasn't the most helpful thing for people, that smaller components of things to learn and to juggle and to hold and deal with at once was going to be much more helpful, which of course it is. No, it's bigger than 3 foot by 4 foot. I think it's 1.8 meters by 1.2 or something like that. It's basically 6 foot, I think. Like, if I put it, is it taller than me? I'm only 5'10", but anyway, yeah. I used to charge by the square inch with paintings. Yeah, yeah. Kay Burke. Sorry, I got distracted answering that. But yeah. So because the drawings don't take that long to do, it's not usually a problem. Have sometimes drawn from them. From my community. Um, yeah, yeah. And of course, with the photos are always suggested only, suggestion, serving suggestion. It doesn't have to look like that. As the artist, I can make changes to anything I see that I want. And people are, in most cases, unless you're a YouTuber, people aren't going to be comparing your artwork with the reference. They're going to be seeing your artwork. So make your artwork as good as it can look. And there's no need to put into our artwork the limitations of the photo. As the artist, we're free to kind of um, make it as whatever we want. Thick watercolor paper be useful. I think you'd just be setting fire to it. I don't know that you'd be able to make it work. I think it would all be just a big whoosh of flames. Well, how's that? Any other last quick questions before I call it a night here? And for anyone who's early morning, thanks for joining. No, I haven't tried Kohinoor pens. Look, I've really only used two pens, and they're the ones that I just happened to buy when I first decided to draw in pen. I bought Copic, and I also bought some of the Mitsubishi Uniball pens, and I really like them. I mean, they're a ballpoint. They have a wonderful flow of ink that's very black and it's very lush. And I was using them in my YouTube videos when I was doing like little perspective diagrams because they give a beautiful black line. But the problem I found for me is that I draw quite quickly, and the ink, just because I think it was so lush coming out, it didn't quite dry predictably every time I would then bring my hand over it, and I found I was starting to smudge it. And so it ended up not being a good choice for me for doing line drawings. And yeah, and I like the fact with the Copic pens that they're refillable, and that means that I can always have the ink on hand, and so I'm not caught short of, particularly with the sketch pens, of thinking I had a certain tone that then I don't have because it's run dry. Yeah, no, yeah, Kim Young Ji, yeah. Look, I don't really try and draw from imagination. I've never really wanted to. So therefore, I think it's amazing when people do, because I can't do it. So if I can't do something, it's like, wow, this person can do something that just blows my mind. So yeah, so I really admire that, and yeah, yeah, but I just don't want to, particularly. Um, all right, look, thanks everyone. I think it is time to go, and start thinking about what will my video be tomorrow. I've done grass and leaves and sticks and there's still clouds, but I'm still working on my clouds. See, people have been saying, "Oh, can you do clouds? Can you do clouds?" I've never really drawn clouds. I mean, I've painted them, but that's not really any help for me in knowing how to do them with pen. And so I'm still practicing clouds. I mean, it's not magic. I mean, we develop skills by saying, what do I want to create? What effect am I trying to have on the paper? How can I do that with the materials I've got? And then we explore. And that's the process I'm going through with clouds. And if I ever end up being happy with how my clouds turn out, you'll know, because there'll be a video on how to draw clouds. Almost 5 a.m. Oh goodness. That's great. Yeah, Uniballs, they are great pens, and I certainly would recommend them. Yeah, please like, if you're one of the 39 people here still watching and you liked the video, then please hit a thumbs up. Thank you, 2 people just did, because these things do help the algorithm just work out how is this going. Yeah, good night. Thanks, everyone. It's been really great to share some of these thoughts about the YouTube journey for me from a slightly different angle. And yeah, I look. Maybe this is sort of this Sunday night is going to be my time. I feel like it for a live session. It's either sort of Sunday night or Monday morning, first thing Monday morning. But I've been sleeping in now that it's winter a bit, so probably Sunday night is a better option for me. So anyway, take care, everyone. Make sure you keep drawing, and see you next time. Bye.